drivers have always been an important part for me. I feel like it's one of the most unappreciated positions that there is. They're the backbone of our industry. We can have as much freight as we want, as many containers coming in, as many loads as we want, but if we don't have those drivers to go and grab them and move them, we're toast.
Welcome into another episode of Everything is Logistics, a podcast for the thinkers in freight. I'm your host, Blythe Milligan, and we are proudly presented by SPI Logistics, and we've got another great episode for y'all today. We have Linda Carey on. She is the CEO of Carey On Transportation Services and also Orion Intermodal Services, and we're going to be talking about taking that entrepreneurial leap into logistics. We're also going to be talking about working as a woman in a male-dominated industry. And then finally, we are going to be talking about the power of local networking and how a lot of y'all, including myself, have been sleeping on that power of local networking. So Linda, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Blythe, for having me here today. I've been so excited to join your podcast. We've known each other for a while, and I've seen the podcast that you have done throughout these past couple of years, and it's been amazing, the people that you have had on. So to be one of your guests is such a privilege. Thank you so much.
Listen, the pleasure is all mine because you're out here in the trenches. You're building up an amazing company here locally in Jacksonville that services companies all around the United States, maybe globally as well, considering your affiliation with the port. So it was about damn time that I had you on the show. So let's one thing that I wanted to just kind of set the stage for is that for a lot of folks that come into this industry, you kind of come into it by accident, or you come into it by going to, 4 years of schooling and then entering into a job, and you find out everything you learned at school doesn't actually apply until you actually start working in that role. But you came from the medical field, right? And then you had a temp job as a receptionist at a logistics company. Is that right?
That's right. So, or you come from the family, either the dads were truck drivers or they owned a trucking company, and that's how they got into it. I always tell everybody I never looked at the logistics industry like, oh my God, that's so sexy. That's what I want to do. Never. But I was a medical assistant. I actually managed 3 offices in Miami for a gastroenterologist. So it was really, really great. It was great pay, great job. But I was a single mom at the time and had to move back home just to have that familiarity because I had my daughter's dad over there, but he was not present. So to move back and have that resources available to me, the familiarity of at least I know where I'm going, where I am, the stability brought me back to Jacksonville. And I got a temp job as a receptionist at a third-party logistics company owned by Paul Robbins, actually, rest in peace. We lost him earlier this year.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry to hear that.
He's such a trailblazer in the industry. It was a huge loss. One of my first mentors, his wife, Julie Robbins, what an amazing, amazing woman. I mean, talk about strength. I think she was one of the first women in the industry that showed me what you can do if you are honest, stick to your word, and take care of your customers. And I think that her drive and the way that she just trailblazed through anything, like there was nobody could tell her anything. And it was just amazing, the knowledge and the confidence that she carried herself with. It was very, very admirable. And she took me under her wing. I was there just answering phones. One of her first lessons to me that I'll never forget is, when you answer the phone, you answer it with a smile. She's like, I don't care if you're in the worst mood. I don't care if it's raining outside. It's always a great day at Caribbean Shipping. It's always sunny. It's beautiful here. So when you answer the phone, you answer with a smile. And it's so true. Like if you think about it, when you talk to someone, you already know their attitude through that phone. Through the voice, the tone that they give you, you already know if it's going to be a good conversation or this is just not going to go very well. So I noticed that a lot. And she would literally stand by my desk and watch me while the phone rang so I could pick it up. And I'll have a smile on my face when I picked it up. But she was an amazing, amazing mentor. I was able to learn so much from her and so many other women in the industry that have paved the way for me and myself. It has always been a male-dominated field. It's still very male-dominated, but there have been women before me that have brought me to a place where I am today, and it's truly a blessing and amazing.
And being a receptionist, because I started off at a 3PL as a receptionist, then I moved into the executive assistant role. But those roles, like you are the front line of the business. You hear everything, you work with everyone. And I think that experience really helps whenever you do take the entrepreneurial leap because you're kind of used to managing it all already, and then you get flipped into the entrepreneurial, CEO role, and you got to manage everything all over again, just with, sometimes higher stakes. And you're the one responsible for, the money that's coming in and the money that's going out. I'm curious, whenever you were in that role, was there a moment that you said to yourself, okay, this is the industry for me?
Yes, it was extremely fast paced, and the day went by so quick. Like before you knew it, it was already 5 o'clock, and I still had like 10 bookings to finish. And I'm like, oh my God, there's not enough time. So I think, and then every day is different. Every day you're facing different challenges. Even till today, I've been in the industry 17 years, and something happens where I'm like, oh my God, I have 30 minutes to solve this problem, or the port's closing. That's it, I'm done. And now I have to pay $300 because we made a mistake. So it's constantly moving. There's never a dull moment. I've been lucky enough to work in every different position, I would say, in the industry, which has brought me to where I am today. And thankfully, I've been 3 years strong in the company because of that background. I started from the bottom as a receptionist, learning that customer interaction, like you said, that face, how you being that first person they talk to is so important. Such a representation of the business, to the operation side, to the warehousing side, to managing the people that work in the warehouses, to the trucks, to everything, where it kind of segues itself into one another. And at least have a broader picture of what it is that the customer needs, because I'm not just thinking, okay, I have to take that from A to B and that's it, I'm done. But once I take it to B, do you need help getting it to C or to D? Like, how can I help? You use me as a resource? And also honoring the people that have come past before me. I didn't come into the industry to say, I'm going to take everybody's business and I'm going to be like this big thing. I feel like people that have good partners should stay with their partners. And I tell them all the time, stay with your partners. If they've been good partners to you, if they're keeping you at ease, keep them. Come to me if God forbid something happens, their truck breaks down, I can help you. I'll be a resource, but not trying to put other people down or trying to push people away. It's always about lifting people up. We can all do this. There's more than that. There's so much cargo coming into this place. So much cargo. So supporting the smaller businesses, pushing other smaller businesses, keeping that network, like you said, within the city and here. A lot of my customers aren't here, but some are, and I try to emphasize the fact that I am here. I want to help bring this revenue into Jacksonville, keep people coming to Jacksonville, and keep growing it from there.
I love that. I feel like that's such a mic drop moment. We were only getting started though, because when I first met you, I think you were working in the safety department, and that the safety department was always the most challenging when I worked in house at a 3PL, because their company lives or dies by the safety department. If you can't get drivers, trained up and qualified and retain them and keep them happy over a long period of time, then your company is kind of toast. And I think we're seeing that in the market today, where retention is so challenging and recruiting is so challenging. But
Yeah.
that I maybe was like the first part of maybe your career whenever you are focusing on the driver side of things. Is that a safe assumption, or has the driver really always been kind of important to you and the companies you worked at, and now the company that you own?
Drivers have always been an important part for me. I feel like it's one of the most unappreciated positions that there is. They're the backbone of our industry. We can have as much freight as we want, as many containers coming in, as many loads as we want, but if we don't have those drivers to go and grab them and move them, we're toast. But they're out there, they're in the heat here in Florida, sometimes without air conditioning, sitting in those ports for 4 to 6 to 8 hours just to get one container. Like, it's just amazing how involved they are and how underappreciated they are. And I saw it as I went through from company to company. You know, there were companies that they actually cared for the drivers that I learned from, and there were companies that they just used them as a number.
Mm.
I was just like, fine, excuse me, leave. We'll find another one. We have 50, 50 in the waiting list. It's all right. And that always resonated with me. Also, there's a lot of Hispanics that are in the industry that drive, and the communication part was a big part of it
Mm.
too. They would get in trouble because they wouldn't understand certain things or certain words that just it doesn't relate. And when you're working in the warehouse and you have the warehouse guys shouting at you and your dispatcher shouting at you and you don't know which one to go, it's very frustrating for them. So I think that that was the part that kind of hit home mostly, is the drivers. My drivers have been with me. Majority of them have been with me since day one.
Oh, wow.
And for the past 3 years. And, we're like family. I treat them like family. They have a say in what we have going on. They have full transparency on what I have going on here in the business, whether it's good or whether it's bad. Bad news happen. Like, it's just the industry. Like when the tariffs happened, this completely changed my business completely. So going through those sides and being able to communicate with the drivers and them feeling like they're part of something instead of just being sent and not even worried about and disregarded, I think that was the biggest part for me.
And do you think that I guess mindset across the industry has kind of shifted dramatically over the last couple of years, or is it just kind of being sped up now where there's maybe like a large almost disrespect towards the driver?
I think it's a little bit on both sides. I think that the manufacturing side, the part that doesn't deal with the transportation side, that doesn't see the damage that it causes the drivers. For example, right now we have we're in a recession. Like, we have everything is so expensive. Food is so expensive, yet our rates are to the floor. These guys are hardly making any money since the tariff thing happened. Our business here in Jacksonville has slowed down for a lot of us, and the driver isn't being taken into consideration. They still have to run that truck. If that truck breaks down, they're in for thousands of dollars. It's not a quick fix. It's not a quick bolt. Like, it's super expensive, and I don't think that people are aware when they're making decisions of what's going on in the industry and how things are moving, how it affects them and their livelihood, and us as owners of also businesses that provide for them, the work for them. But also at the same time, we are also shifting into a new generation. So, before, when it was paper logs, you had a lot of people that were not go to school and they would just, come to work. So they were treated not right because they're like, well, what else are you going to do? Right. But now you have e-logs. Now you have to know technology. Now you have to kind of be more aware, right? So the people that are coming into our industry are more educated. Education has grown a lot from back in the days. And I think that now companies are understanding they have to do more for the driver. In order to keep the driver around, you have to do more for the driver. You have to appreciate the driver. You have to take care of the driver. If not, it's going to be a revolving door the whole time. And there's only so long you can last that way. Like, you can last that way. You sure can. You can make some money and you can make a business out of it. But there's only so many drivers that you can filter through that company. And there's only so many accounts that you can fail so many times before people are just like, you know what, you're just not reliable. And I think that that's a big part. Like, when you see companies that don't have longevity in their drivers, I think it's a telltale sign, because if you're taking care of your drivers will take care of you.
What does, I guess, the present day driver care about the most? I mean, obviously pay is one of them, and we're all kind of sitting around waiting for those rates to go back up, except for shippers. Shippers are enjoying their time right now, but their comeuppance will probably come later on this year, hopefully, as soon. Not comeuppance, I guess I should say. I probably should say that a little bit more politically correct.
We say when it flips, the market will flip.
Yes, when the market flips and rates are more in the favor of, it would just become more fair for the drivers in particular.
Right. Mm-hmm.
What, I guess, matters to drivers and keeps them as retained to a company, so your company doesn't have to worry about going out and recruiting new drivers? What keeps your drivers working with you?
I think communication and honesty. Like I said, we go through good highs and we go through lows, but I'm constantly communicating with them. I'm letting them know what the market looks like, what what other companies look like. They see it at the port. When they're at the port, we communicate constantly. I don't go into the port, so I'll ask them like, hey, how's the port looking? Are there a lot of trucks? So they're like, oh no, Linda, there's like 2 trucks in front of me and 2 trucks behind me. I'm like, yes, I'm not the only one. I'm like, okay, I can breathe, because you get kind of anxiety. Like, is it that my work is not coming, but it's just that it's just so slow. It's so slow. And then you have the times when it's so busy. And so everybody's going to the port. So you have thousands of trucks trying to get into the port. Now you're stuck there for hours. So it's just the balance is just so off, and in such a predictable market that we used to be.
Yeah, it's one of the, especially from a business standpoint, I think it's been one of the most challenging markets that I've ever witnessed. And so if anybody is still, in business, you must be doing something right, because it is incredibly challenging at the moment. I want to dig into, a little bit more details about what Carry On does, what Orion does. I admittedly don't know much about intermodal. I mean, obviously I know, the basics of, intermodal, but I would love to know like what the nuances are within your company of, because you started Carry On Transportation, but then you also have Orion. Why the need for 2 separate companies in that regard?
So I'm an agent for the Evans network of companies. The Evans network of companies is an agent-based company. So Orion belongs to them. So what they provide me is they provide me the motor carrier authority to be able to run the trucks, as well as the back office support technology-wise. They provide the safety department side, so e-logs, ELDs, everything, onboarding, anything that helps me to be able to run my business. So I run my business solo. And I would not be able to do that solo without Evans. And I actually worked for corporate for Evans. So when I was a field safety manager, I was a field safety manager for Suntech. And then Evans bought the asset side of Suntech. So I became an Evans employee.
Ah.
And then I was promoted to Southeast Regional Director of Sales and Agent Relations. And so I was able to travel through the Southeast and see different agents and kind of see what it was all about. And the thought of having my own company came years prior to that. But I don't know what came into me at that point. I think the drivers that are currently with me would call me every once in a while and be like, so when are you opening something? Like, we're ready to work for you. Like they worked for me before years, like I would help them. So they're like, when are you doing this? When are we going to work for you again? And that just kept ringing in my head, and something pushed me. And I have a lot of mentors and friends in the industry that have been just so amazing. And I sat and talked to a few of them, and it's funny because a lot of them are like, well, Linda, when you go and you want to do stuff like that, you want to do it slow, you want to make sure that you're set up before you make that jump. It's a big jump, and I listened to everything everybody had to say. But then I have a big ethics background to me. And I just didn't want to sneak around or do things that were not right. So I talked to the CEO, Bo Bates from Evans. I had a conversation with him, and I was like, listen, this is what my dream is. I would love to go and on my own and do my own thing. But if you feel like my value is better served here for you for now, that's fine. I'll stay. But I just wanted to have a conversation with you. And he supported me all the way. He supported me all the way. And he was like, as long as the person that you're working for at the moment, which is Andy Pyatt, which I absolutely love, amazing, one of my best bosses yet. And he completely supported me also, so having that support and that belief system, I just jumped in, cold feet, middle of the ocean, nobody around to take me out of it, no lifeguards, just straight jumped in, feet first. And I am so happy I did.
Yeah, I shout out to the men who kind of maybe will push us out of our comfort zones, because I had a very similar experience. I can't believe we've never actually talked about this personally, but before I launched my business, my former mentor, I shout out Al Steele, love you. He is over at Scott's Logistics Group, I believe now, which I need to call him, but that's another note. But he was the one who said, it's time for me to push you out of the nest. It's time for you to do your own thing,
Hold on.
because I know that you want to be here and you're not gonna be able to grow within this company. And so I think it's really important, I mean, obviously female mentors are insanely important and you can relate to them on a totally different level
Mhm.
than men. But when the men are supporting the women in this industry too, I think it goes just an extra mile because I don't know, it's just something about them like wanting to push us out of our comfort zone in a
100%.
business way.
It's so encouraging, it really is. Now you said Al Steele, is he with the pilots? Is he captain Al?
No, he different Al Steele. So he was with a company called Elites Transportation, Elites, and he was also with a company called Vecture. They sold off to NYK Logistics, and then he started Elites. Elites was open for about 5 years, and then unfortunately, it was devastating for everybody whenever it closed down. But I don't think that there is a transportation company in Jacksonville that doesn't have some employees that have worked for Al. So his footprint, I think, in this industry just is almost like a silent footprint. Because even like one of his top sales guys went on to found Armstrong Transportation Group, and now they're $1 billion entity. And it's amazing the people that were at that company. But unfortunately, I
Yeah.
guess lots of people maybe can relate to a company closing. Unfortunately, can relate to that.
Man, I'm telling you, things can happen so quickly and they can turn so quickly too, and especially in this industry, right? And so and that's one of the things too with being with Evans is that's kind of that safety net too,
Oh,
because
great point.
your own motor carrier authority and your own insurance, and one accident can shut you down. One fatality, you're done. You're absolutely done. And I don't think people understand how crucial that is in this business.
That agent model I wish I knew about it when I was working in-house because that feels like something that would be right up my alley. Because you do have, that kind of the safety net of launching your own business, but you still have the freedom to kind of figure it out yourself. But you
Exactly.
still have the added bonus of like mentors that can help you along the way.
Just one phone call away. I mean, it's amazing. It really is. As opposed to doing it, I mean, I still do it myself, right? Because the operations still have to be done. You're on your own marketing team. You're on your on your own accounts receivables and making sure you're getting paid. And they help with that too. But we're responsible for that as well. And payroll. Making sure our drivers are getting paid, the settlements, and onboarding. We still have to do all the stuff, but I couldn't imagine doing it without him.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Not. I
So for Orion, with being, the intermodal side, what is one thing that you wish that more people understood about the intermodal / drayage side of freight?
that it's not a cookie cutter thing. I think that every day is, like I said, is different. We have a military operation here in Jacksport as well, and sometimes because of the military operations, the gates will stop for them, or there will be delays in the gates to be able to go in and out,
Hmm.
and which causes delays. So I could have an 11 o'clock appointment, and people are like, "Oh, it's fine. It's right there. It's 10 miles." But my driver's been there since 6:30 in the morning, and probably will not get out till like 3 in the afternoon. They're not making that 11 o'clock, and it kind of they get frustrated as a customer. So I explain it though. I'm like, look, this is how it is. I show e-logs. I'm very educational when it comes to that, because there's a lot of people that won't educate the customer.
Hmm.
They're just like, it is what it is. They have more. I have to move on. Let's go. Can you get it or not? That's it. Like,
Hmm.
this industry is very straightforward. This is not. We're not beating around the bush. We're not making you happy or comfortable. We got to move. We got to go. But I like to educate my customers and be like, listen, this is what's going on. Or if the port's telling us like, hey, there's a delay, I'm like, hey, FYI, shipments are going to be delayed today. Or even the drivers, like, I'll let the drivers know, because some of them won't even know until they get there. And they're like, oh my God, what's going on?
Wow.
Doing intermodal, in the rails are way much quicker. So then we do the port stuff. So whenever the port is extremely congested, if I have something in the rail, we'll wait to do the port stuff and go do the rail stuff, because we're going to be stuck there anyway all day. And that'll at least help us, and that's where the logistics side comes in, where you have to move things around last minute. What's going to work? What's not going to work? How are we pivoting from what we originally had planned? Because now we just got thrown something else our way.
And so for your company, you really work like you're not just I don't want to say just a local company because Jacksonville is very much like a logistics powerhouse, across the nation, but you are working with, some major Jacksport, and then you also have all of these different affiliations locally here. There's the Talon Group, which is almost like a coalition of the different local associations. And then you also are pivotal in the leadership within the Jacksonville Propeller Club. Can you tell us a little bit about what the Propeller Club is and how it, maybe got started here locally, and why, I guess, the importance of those local groups that maybe some people might overlook?
Absolutely. So the Propeller Club is an international club. It was established in 1927
Oh, wow.
no, I lie, 1930, if I'm not mistaken. I may be wrong. No,
Somewhere around there, yeah.
1927 in New York, it was established as an actual club. It started like as a group of men just meeting together and discussing business, and actually became a transportation club. So in 2027, we will have the 100th year anniversary in New York for the International Club. That was the first founding club. Jacksonville was founded in November of 1930. So we
Wow.
will be November 17th, if I'm not mistaken, of 1930. So we'll be 95 years this November. And it also started, it was just men. If you go down the president list, you'll see when the women started, and it wasn't that long ago, taking leadership. So we've been around for quite a while. We are a nonprofit, all ran by volunteers. There's one position that we hold that was a temporary position, which we're turning it into a full-time position now because there's so much demand and there's not enough. But it's concentrated in the maritime industry and pushing the maritime industry as well as our logistics partners, because we all work together. You have the Coast Guard out there guarding our shorelines. You have the pilots. You have CBP. You have so many different entities that are here to guard us, to keep us safe, and to get our cargo in here. The captains that are bringing it in the vessels and guiding the vessels. The longshoremen. We have a shortage of longshoremen here since World War II. And it's still going on. So we try to push that as much as we can. We have an endowment currently with UNF, and I'm going to be signing an endowment in the next month with Kaiser University, which is amazing. We're so excited that we're moving forward in that direction. And we also support AMI Kids here in Jacksonville. So nurturing our future, our students, is very important to us. They are the future of the companies here. We want to keep them here. We want to keep them in Jacksonville. We want to show them that they can do it here. They can work for international companies and still stay here, and do wonderful things. Jacksport alone, the team in Jacksport is amazing. I've been working with them for years, and just being able to have that community, the logistics community, as much as it's huge, it's very small, as you know, Blythe. It's
Word travels.
it's very small. So it's really good to be a part of it, and the people that will be there to help you grow, to help push you forward, is integral. Jacksport is one of our main supporters for the Propeller Club, as well as other big companies here in town. And nurturing the future, I think, is something that we all have in common, and that we give most of our time to. And it's what we need. If I look back when I started, there was nobody to tell me, hey, you should look into transportation, or this may be something that works for you. And I tell even the students, I'm like, even if you're, because we do also the business side comes to some of the meetings for the clubs, because to the student clubs, and we tell them, like, even if you do marketing, there's marketing and logistics.
We need
There's
it.
logistics, we need it. There's sales, there's everything that you could possibly do in other places, you could do it here too. It's just not as attractive. It's not a marketed industry. Nobody really puts it out. There's no ads really for it, if you think about it. You don't really
Yeah, you
see
kind of just fall
that.
into it. I mean, unless to your point earlier, and if you have family that is involved. I mean, I was working as a waitress, and my cousin was like, "You need to get a real job." And at like 24 or 25, she's like, "Come be this assistant at this company I work for," and
Yeah.
that's how she got me in. But you're so right. There's no you don't even really think about these things. I mean, I can't growing up in Jacksonville, I can't tell you how many times I drove past Jacksport. Maybe you're going to the zoo or the airport and you drive over that bridge and you're like, oh, there's some cranes. Like, oh, that's the port. Like you don't really think twice about it until, I think
what a powerhouse
probably
it is, right? The
right.
infrastructure that it provides to Jacksonville is just amazing. And I think you're absolutely right. Just not having that knowledge. I mean, look at us as the Propeller Club. We've been around for 95 years, and 95% of Jacksonville doesn't know who we are.
I'm ashamed to admit that it wasn't until I met you that I knew what the prop club was. I'd heard of, the local transportation club of Jacksonville. But I didn't know, frankly, working at an asset-based trucking company, I didn't know much about intermodal. I didn't know much about maritime. So it's so important for groups like this to exist, to be able to educate not just the folks outside of the industry, but inside the industry too, because I think we're so used to working in silos where we need to, it benefits everyone to share that information. So kudos to you, especially from your leadership positions with working with the prop club, because this is, you're coming up on what, your third year as president?
Yes. So next week usually we'll do a change of command, but since I'm keeping the command, we've changed it to crew change because there's some people that are coming off the board, but there's new people coming on the board as well. So that we're super excited about, but I am staying with the presidency just to help kind of establish it a little bit more. Doing the volunteer work is extremely hard. I think being a family member, not even just a parent, like just a person, and having a full-time job, and especially in these industries, right? Because a lot of the people that are in this industry is not 8 to 5. We are not bankers hours. There's people, especially that are working with people overseas, that are up at 1, 2 in the morning because they have to talk to China, or they have to talk to somebody in Asia, and they have to get up earlier, or whatever the case is. So it's not or you have a truck delivering to a Walmart and you need a lumper, and there's a driver waiting for you. So you don't have set times and schedules to be able to set a time apart to volunteer to. Like, you have your full-time job, you have all of these things going on, you have your family, some people have kids, so having so many responsibilities, and then to take a volunteer position that is important, very important to have to even set that time apart, and that dedication is a lot. So I do give my hats off to the people that do volunteer, because it is a huge commitment, and it also takes away time from themselves and their family, and keeping a club open for 95 years and being able to take it this far, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of people giving up their times with their families, and a lot of dedication, and a lot of people putting service before themselves. And sometimes it's not going to happen. There's going to be times we've had people that have not been able to continue on because they had a job change, and now their responsibilities are different, or their position changes in their company, and now they have all these things to do, and they have to unfortunately take a step back because they're so overwhelmed, but yet they still show up. And I think that's one of the biggest thing that really took me. We had one of our board members, she couldn't do it because she had so many responsibilities, but she stayed as a board member, even though she couldn't go to a higher position. She stayed as a board member. She still shows up. She supports fully, and I think that that's a challenge, especially for somebody when you're like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm proposing myself to do. And then something comes in, completely takes it away. And instead of just giving up on it, she was just kind of like, okay, not right now, because this is priority, but I'm still here. And that meant so much, and just people showing up means so much. People call me, from the board, like being part of that community also. Being a business owner and working by myself all the time. I have my drivers that I talk to, but mostly by myself. Being able to have them and like check in, like, hey, is everything good? What do you need? How can I help? And be part of that community that you've formed is truly amazing. It really is.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, because there's so much time, especially as a business owner, there's so many times when you are doing it all alone, that when you go to an in-person event, that's when you feel almost like more at home, like you can breathe a little because you can connect with other people that are going through the same things, that understand the industry that you're in and the lingo that you're talking. And, most people don't know all of the chaos that's going on in freight and logistics, but when you go to these events, you're with your people. And
Yeah.
that has like such a value that I don't think it can't be measured in any kind of like bank statement. But I am curious, like, relative to that question, what kind of, I guess, networking opportunities, connections you've made with local groups that help you run your business?
Oh, well, I could tell you a testimonial right now where I'm sitting at. So I actually had one of the guys that is coming up. He's going to be my vice president of programs, Tanner. He was helping me find a location because my lease was up in the other place that I was at. And it was in a great place. It was mostly a dirt lot. The guys hated it, and they still stood with me, though. they hated it. They're like, "You're getting us out of here," We can't even wash the trucks because it looks dirty again as soon as you drive in. So we looked for another location, and I almost signed a contract that would have not been a good decision, like whatsoever. But then I stayed back and I was like, listen, I don't know, something's telling me just not to do it right now. I was like, let me just wait a little bit longer, and we'll see. And then sure enough, a few weeks later, he calls me. He's like, Linda, I think I have a place for you. I was like, get out of here. He's like, yeah, I think I do. Give me like 2 more days. I was like, okay, cool. So he actually, through the networking events, met the CEO of FlexCold, which is a huge warehousing facility here in Jacksonville. And they had a phase 1 where they had their offices while they built the warehousing side. And then when they also built a phase 2, which was a bigger side of offices to be accommodated of the big warehouse. So he was touring the place, and she told him how phase 1 was basically empty because they're all in phase 2, and they didn't know what they were going to do with the spot. And he's like, oh, I know exactly what you can do with the spot. So Linda's president of the Propeller Club, and she's looking, and through that connection, now I'm here. They gave me a great deal. My trucks are here in a paved lot, secured, fenced around lot, and they are so happy. And we're like really close to the port, which makes it so much easier to be able to turn our freight. And we partnered with FlexCode as far as their transloading services, so we help each other out. And I think that was a huge part of it. And a lot of other people that are in the Propeller Club can have testimonials like this. I think you get a certain kind of credibility when you've been around the industry and you've networked, and people could say, yeah, I believe in her. Same thing with equipment. Business has to be in business probably like 2 years before anybody will think about leasing anything to you. And because of the relationships I had, I was able to get lease on equipment months in before when I first started, which was such a benefit. The guy's like, oh yeah, I know you. I've seen you online all the time. Like, yeah, that's me.
Well, I think you're hinting at something that trust is built like brick by brick. And I think that with all of the experience that you've been talking about, working in-house and then starting your own company and then moving to, grow and expand and take care of your drivers, where your drivers are following you, no matter if you're in a dirt lot or you get the come up and you get to go to a nicer facility. And I think that means a lot to folks when you can grow together, and especially from like the local networking side of things, which I admittedly have just dropped the ball on, because I really got this show started, or I got started podcasting, during COVID. And so during that time, it was just kind of like, what the hell do we do? We can't go anywhere. We can't talk to anybody in person. But now it's evolved into, something that I just really like admire from afar, because it's not just this group that you're a part of with the Prop Club. You're also there's another group in town called Talon, and that is a coalition of
Yes.
different transportation clubs. Is that like a first of its kind? It's the first that I've heard of them.
Yeah, so it is the first of its kind because usually everybody stays within their club. People are trying to grab members, we're all trying to survive. But between Jeff Price and Ike Sherlock years ago, I was
Jeff.
very excited to be part of that. Everybody knows Ike Sherlock. We were able to sign the agreement between all the clubs to come together and kind of form a partnership. And we meet once a quarter. We discuss locations of different events. We give each other ideas. We let each other know when we're doing events, the dates. So then that way we're kind of not on top of each other.
Mm.
Sometimes you can't help it. It's just the way that it happens. But most of the time, that's what we're looking at. That's what Talent has been able to help us with, is kind of coordinate events, give not only the clubs the opportunity to have their days and their events, but also our members, because we do have members that flux through different clubs, which is great. I think each club has something different to give, and their communities are just amazing. The leaders are just out of this world, you meet some really, really impressive people out here. I was also part of I had the privilege of being part of Women's Mentoring Monday for the Jacksonville Business Journal. And this was my second year that I get to do that. And I absolutely love it. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, this is amazing that you're here today. I'm like, there's so many people out there that look for these celebrities and want to talk to these celebrities, and what I would give to talk to them and get 5 minutes with Jay-Z. And I'm like, you know how many producers you have here in Jacksonville? How many like rock stars are here that you can sit down with and get a good conversation where it doesn't have to wait? Go out there, talk to people. You have so many people here that have so much knowledge to share. A lot of them are kind enough to even mentor a lot of people, and anybody coming up in any kind of business, just go talk to them. They're human too. They started at one point also, like, it's okay. I know it's scary. It was scary for me the first time that I shifted from operations to business development sales. Was so scary. It was the most scariest thing I did in my life. I was used to giving orders, just barking orders around, telling people what to do. People come to me needing stuff, so it'd be me, so it wasn't me going out and asking, and asking for business and trying to make a relationship. Like, I was always sought out after when I was in operations. So flipping to that side and having the boss that I had that was just like, you should do sales. You're really good. You already know your stuff. There's no better salesperson than an operations person, because they've been there, they've done that, they know. And most people that you're going to go to sell, they're going to smell it if you are bullshitting. Excuse my language, but they're going to smell it. They know it. I was like, oh, I was so scared. And I was like, okay, so what do I do? And he's like, well, go drive around, talk to people. I'm like, oh my God, what? So I must admit, I cried a couple times in a couple parking lots before going in, and then, just had to shake it off and be like, okay, it's going to be fine. The worst thing they could say is no. That's it. And like being my own, I think that's when I started becoming my own therapist and kind of walking myself through things, emotionally, and telling myself it's okay, just do it. And that's how I started learning. I mean, networking for me was the scariest thing in the world. I would walk into rooms and just like be paralyzed because I would not know who to talk to. I didn't feel like I was good enough to be in the rooms. I felt like I had imposter syndrome all the way. I was like, oh my God, they're going to probably ask me something so smart, and I'm going to be here like, I don't know. But it was never anything like that. It was always so great. There's things that happen, embarrassing moments that happen when those things come about too. I went to a Jacksonville Business Journal, my first Jacksonville Business Journal event. And my boss told me that morning, there's an event today, you just need to go. I was like, okay, that's fine. Luckily I'm dressed, great. So I go to the event. I'm wearing this beautiful highlighter pink shirt and these pants that have pink lines on, with gray pants, pink lines. My hot pink shoes, because I thought I was the cutest thing. And then I go up the stairs in the Omni Hotel, and it's a sea of black. It was a black tie event.
But
It was a black tie event, and it was too far up. Like, when you pick your head up and and everybody like just does that all at you because they see this big highlighter coming up, and I just like froze for a second, and I was like, well, you got to keep walking, Linda, because now you're awkward just standing there. So I just walked myself in, and I was just so scared, and it was one of the most awkward moments, but I turned it in my favor. Anybody that I talked to, I'd be like, oh my God, my boss, I told them the story. My boss sent me here, look at me, and they're like, oh no, it's fine. You're fine, and help me, feel more comfortable. And then my after calls, when I called people afterwards or send them an email, I'm like, oh, I'm that girl in the bright pink shirt. That was me. I know you saw me. I know you remember me. And they did. So I just turned it to my side. But those things happen. I mean, and they're scary. And it's a lot of experiences like that kind of, I think, push people away to like, I'm never doing that again. I'm never going there again. But I mean, once it happens to you, you're like, okay, well, what else can happen to me?
Well, I think you're talking about a very interesting step as a business owner, because it's one thing to, kind of sit behind the scenes and do your thing and run your business. And that's all great and good. But when you're being pushed out of your comfort zone a little bit into situations that you've never really been in before, the only way to get comfortable is to do it and keep doing it. But you're right. Like any conference you go to, it's just a sea of black and blue blazers. So that moment of you wearing that bright pink outfit and then standing out, I'm sure that was the spotlight that was, justifiably deserved. And it was your moment that you stepped into and were able to seize, where a lot of people maybe would have gone back down those stairs and never came back.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. It's definitely a pivotal moment. I always tell everybody that moment because it's very, I think anybody can relate to that position, right? Being in that position, being in that room and being stared at and not wearing the right thing. I think everybody can relate to that. And just that emotional shock that it causes you, the embarrassment, right? Because you're embarrassed. You're like, oh my God, what did I just do? Where did I just walk into? But being able to get over that and then just find different ways to make it, put it in your favor, and I think that's where a lot of the positivity comes in for oneself. When you talk positively to yourself and try to see the positive side to things, you can shift the mentality to something positive, right? If I was to attack myself and be like, God, you're so stupid, or blah, 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 to myself, that would have shrunk me down. That would have made me feel little, and that would have made me leave. So I think that being able to talk to yourself, counseling yourself, like I said, I became my counselor. Like I was my cheerleader, you can do this, it's okay. And I think that helped me through a lot too. One of my favorite books is The 4 Agreements. So being impeccable with your word is one of the agreements. And that's not just with your word going out, but your internal word as well. What you're saying to yourself that doesn't come out of your mouth is extremely important. So I think shifting to that mindset of supporting yourself, don't wait for other people to support you. Don't wait for other people to be there for you. Don't wait for the opportunities to come to you. Be the opportunity, give yourself that chance, support yourself, push yourself, encourage yourself, be your biggest cheerleader.
Love that. And it especially from that mindset of, because there's so much negativity that's involved within the industry right now, especially, everybody knows that rates are in the tank, and, we're hoping for that, light at the end of the tunnel. But I'm curious, what are maybe some of those lights for you right now? Where are you seeing little pockets of opportunity?
Most of my business, I was moving a lot of the Asia freight. And when the tariffs happened, a lot of that shifted. 80% of my business went away,
Wow.
which was very impactful for me. But thankfully, other opportunities came. So here in Jacksonville, we have the Jones Act. We have a lot of Puerto Rico business that goes in and out of these ports constantly. So I kind of shifted my way into working that business more, and created a wonderful partnership as well, where it's been fruitful. It has helped me move forward, pivot my mindset of what I wanted to do to what I'm doing now. But it's been great, and just different opportunities. Although some of the customers leave, you have more customers, like I said, so it's just an opportunity to find something that will be fitting for us, which we did, thankfully, and just keep providing the service. I think what I tell my drivers is, as long as we do what we were supposed to do, and they do what they're supposed to do, and I do what I'm supposed to do, we're just going to keep going. Our customers are very loyal to us as well, which is something that I'm very thankful to. We provide them the service that they're in our industry. Like, getting communication is really hard. I mean, most of these companies, you're talking about 50, 100, 200 trucks. It's really tough to have that personal white glove service, that white glove. I'm a small fleet, so I can do that. I have the ability to do that. And I want that to be the culture of my business, like the constant communication. You don't have to worry about the freight. You can just carry on about your life, because I got it. Like, as soon as you tell me, hey, these containers are in the water, I got it. You don't have to worry about them. I'm tracing them. I'm looking for them. I'm seeing when they're available. I'm reaching out to you to see when you want them delivered. You're not worried about, oh my God, there's a last free day. Tomorrow's the last free day. Today's the last free day. Nobody knew about it. Nobody said anything. And fires happen, right? So to be able to provide that calmness and that ease for my customer, that they don't have to worry about it. They have 1,000 other things that they have to worry about it. That transportation shouldn't be one of them. So that's where I come in, and I love to be able to provide that service. When my customers call me and they have a fire and they need something, like right now, they know they can call me, and 9 times out of 10 I'm gonna get it done. If I can't get it done, it's because I absolutely could not. But I will try my best, whether it's me or finding somebody to help. I'll try to make it happen no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's really like words to live by. And you're obviously a testament to this, because you have this same trust and communication, not only with your customers, but with your drivers as well. And that networking of not only local opportunities, but, national and global opportunities has really served you well in your business to be able to survive and hopefully thrive, even despite, all of the challenges that are going on. Couple last questions here. If somebody, or maybe even a woman, is interested in getting into this industry and starting their own path, what advice would you give them to get started?
I would say to put the emotions to the side. This is not an emotional business. You cannot lead by emotions, and that's when it becomes very difficult. This is a very cut and dry A to B. This thing needs to move, and that's it. If your driver's sick and he's out, that's fine. Somebody else needs to do it. We need to find somebody else. We need to fix it. So in any asset, I think of the logistics industry is the emotions. You just have to put them to the side and understand that this is business. This is not an emotional business. We do not get emotional over things. Unfortunately, if you look at the disaster that happened 10 years ago, 10 years actually, this October, the sinking of El Faro. It's going to be their 10-year anniversary this October. The ship, I remember that day like it was yesterday. I used to work inside of the port at a warehouse, and I walked in and everybody's just a total wreck. But they're in their desks and they're working, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, what happened? And they're like, oh my God, you didn't hear. And then they tell me about the sinking of El Faro and what was going on. And everybody's in tears, and it's such an emotional moment. But the freight still has to go out, and you're still having to sit there and you're still having to process orders and you still have to go and get these guys moving. So it's so unfortunate, but it has to keep going. Like, we don't have the shelves need to be stocked. People are waiting for their freight. We moved FEMA loads also back then. So you're having to have that pressure on you that these are people that need these things, right? So the emotional part can't make a play on it. You always have to be very cold-headed, making sure that your objectives are being met. What you tell your customers is actually being done. And keeping that trust. Customers, in order for customers to trust you, they have your word. And it's crazy because you have contracts and all that, but your word matters so much still. And just to give somebody your word, like, I got you, I'll take care of you, that means a lot to somebody. And if you don't, and things happen, and I have full transparency with my customers, like, hey, this happened. Even if we messed up, I'm like, it happened. This is how we can, something I always told my people that work for me is, don't come to me with a problem, come to me with a solution, the problem and the solution. Even if it's not the right solution, I need you to at least think about what you would think it would be your solution.
Mm.
And then we can discuss it from there, and I'll help you to find a solution, or we can find that solution together. So I think being transparent, having that communication, and letting them know what's going on so they're not also caught in the crossfires of other communication is a big part of it. And it's a big part of retention and keeping our customers happy and safe, and knowing that they're afraid of safe. I mean, you're talking about a lot of money out there that we're moving, so I can completely understand their concern, and why it's so vital. You have cutoffs at places that the freight needs to get to. So it's a lot. It's a lot. I don't think people understand the amount of money that this industry moves. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's like the saying goes, if you bought it, a truck brought it. And so with you and your history and your passion and dedication to communication, to building trust, and then also just problem solving. And I say just problem solving, but that's the entirety of the logistics process, is solving problems and finding a way to get that stuff from point A to B. And to your point earlier, growing out of, how do I get, what do you need help with, from B to C? I love that line.
yes.
This has been an incredible conversation, especially as, a female business owner, just a business owner in general. Obviously the market is not tough, but there are opportunities and there are resources and people that you can lean on during challenging times. So for folks who are interested in working with you, following more of your work, where can they get in touch with you? Where can they connect with you?
They can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there. Also, I have come out to one of our happy hour events. We'll be having a happy hour in August. We have a few throughout the year, where it's just camaraderie. People come out, we have a good time, conversations. If you're interested in the industry, this is the time to come out and have those conversations. What do we do? Like, how does it run? I think it's this industry is not, there's not many people out there educated on it, on the things that they can do and that can be done, and the jobs that are out there. Some people haven't even been able to go into the port, and you need credentials and all of that for it. But I think that even having that visibility of, we take students out there, we have a big sea day each year, and we take the students out to the ports. And JAXPort partners with us, and they get to see the big cranes, and they get to see the big security areas where they're monitoring every single speck of that port, and to be able to see different aspects of the industry that you wouldn't be able to get to see. And providing that education is really important for me, just to be able to flourish what we have. We have a really great future coming up for us in JAXPort. All the investments that have been made to improve the infrastructure have been amazing, and they're only going to get better. We have more cranes coming in. We have the lines that are going to be picked up, that's going to allow more heavier ships to come into our ports, which is just going to be more fruitful for us, locally in the community and nationwide, really. So I'm excited to see the things that are to come. I invite anyone to come out, come to one of our happy hours, come to our events, and see what we're about and see what the industry is about. And you may find something that you absolutely fall in love with, like me and Blythe, by mistake.
Well, I love it. I love your passion, especially for the local groups. It's really inspiring to me, and it's gonna get me out of my house and get me to some of these local events that I have been missing the boat on, for lack of a better phrase. But Linda, thank you so much. This has been an incredible conversation. Can't wait for other folks to hear about it, because I think you really laid out a clear path to not only starting a business, but thriving in it and having a passion for your local community, and being able to shine a spotlight on all of those things at the same time. So you're very clearly doing a lot of things right. And so hopefully, a lot of other businesses can follow your lead. So thank you again for coming on.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Blythe. It's been amazing. And I look forward to seeing all the great things you continue to do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's like the check is in the mail.